Hi, I'm Eleanor and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if that's the case. I started this channel in the hope that it would motivate me to read more prose, to read more fiction, more novels. Um, I hadn't been reading for several years anything but poetry, and even that, not much poetry. A little bit every day, but certainly not whole books of poetry, and certainly not contemporary poetry. So I arrive in this beautiful booktube land, and I start reading novels that are recommended by other booktubers, and I'm enjoying my reviews. I'm still loving it, but I'm finding that with almost every book I read, it brings me back, it reminds me, or it actually pushes me to look into contemporary poetry more and more. And this is an unexpected delight from being in this space. So, what I'm really trying to introduce here is the fact that I've just read this amazing book, which I highly recommend, called Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. And I found out about it through two booktubers that I love, Book the Bookerer and Books and Bow. And I'll leave their channels linked down below. I loved the reviews these two booktubers gave of the book. They were both, they both highly recommended it. And thanks to them, I've gone into this really strange world of Our Wives Under the Sea. And in a way, I've immersed myself in that world, much as the two main characters, Leia and Miri, are immersed in it themselves. If you want a synopsis and really brilliant reviews, please go there. What I thought I'd do is add to the discussion, because I don't think I can do better than them in reviewing. And what I thought I'd add is the way I feel that the latest book of poetry that I read, that just came out a few months ago, and I actually reviewed it somewhat briefly in the video prior to this one. The way that book was informed by this novel, and how I found myself, the minute I finished Our Wives Under the Sea, I somehow was drawn through the linguistic world, and not only the language, something about the themes as well, that brought me back to Emily Berry's world. And as I mentioned in my video previously about Unexhausted Time, it's a very open book of poetry. You get out of it what you bring to it. And sometimes you need help with that. And so I would recommend that if you perhaps love this book, or if perhaps you do end up reading this book, I do recommend that you then go and check out Unexhausted Time. I think they go well together. If I was, in my fantasy, if I had the bookstore where I would put books of poetry together with books of prose, this would be a pair made in heaven. And the main thing that suddenly struck me, and I suddenly thought, oh my God, I got Emily Berry totally wrong in her book, is that I mentioned that her book is about death and about time, but fundamentally, I see now, it's about love. It's about all different kinds of love. It's so obvious. Sometimes poetry is so obvious, but only after the event. And I think that's what happens, is if you have a very good poetry book, it stays with you, even subconsciously. You're not even aware of it, that there's something about its language and its world that's working in the back of your mind. And all of a sudden you'll go for a walk with the dog, or you'll wake up, in the morning, and you'll suddenly realize that there's another layer, there's another level, another layer to the poem, to the book of poems. So what I thought I'd do is I'd take a few quotes and read them from the book of poetry. And what I'm thinking is, if you have read this book, you'll find that listening to these quotes hopefully will open the novel more for you and may also bring you towards poetry and towards poetry that isn't maybe often discussed. You're not really, I don't think from my research, many people on BookTube, many people on, Instagram are talking about Emily Berry. I think it's a real shame because I think they'd love her if they knew more about her. So I'm kind of her number one fan. Well, not number one, I'm sure there are many fans, but I'm a huge fan. So to start with, going to her book of poetry, on page 11, her poem, which most of her poems are titled just using the first line of the poem, Funny You Should Mention a Crow. I'm just going to read a few lines from the middle of the poem. At the top of the hill, we lay beneath the eaves, trembling. Serpentine in one hand, labradorite in the other. Earth star, base root, third eye. Why then are we not healed? We're trapped between two seasons. How easily it gets flipped over, and we're on our backs, alone forever, staring at the smashed face of the moon. That's actually the ending of the poem. And my next quote, I've decided I'm not going to say anything about what I think connects this poem to the novel. I'd like to leave it up to you. It's a discovery that I think is best done quietly in your own imagination. So now I am going to page 18, and I think these are the last few lines of a poem that starts, my love was two pieces put together. And this I found made me think of life on that submarine. And I've gone and done what I said I wasn't going to do, which is explain the poems. I will go on and quote now. Okay. All those little sounds add up and come together in a kind of hum. But it's so faint, so very, very faint. You can't hear it unless you listen carefully for a long time. I have seen poetry unleashed by a single line, but I have not known where it got to. The way a lure might be lost in a lake and the fish still rise. I slipped the memento of the saint, your mother's gift, under the door of the church. I sent those blessings back to their source and the devil take them. If you believe in the devil, which I do. I'd like to give you two more quotes. And I so much hope that you get out of this what I got out of this. Everyone is different, of course. Page 50. I shouldn't be really saying page numbers because I'm working from a Kobo and it's of no consequence. The first line of the book, the first line of the poem, is you trod your lonely path. It becomes the title. And actually I'm going to read the first few lines of the poem. You trod your lonely path and I trod mine. And no one would drink from my tap but me. This water which wouldn't stop flowing. Irrevocably the born arrive. And they can't be put back. No, but who on earth would want to put them back? I reached a door, passed through it, reached another door, and so it went on. There was nobody at home to greet me. And one last quote, because I simply cannot resist. This is called I Will Tell You in Detail, and I'm starting from the beginning of the poem. I will tell you in detail what is affecting me. How in their abundance words can seem quite desolate. The night terribly dark and the dawn broken open. The skin on your face that covers over the bones. It suddenly occurred to me there were bones. I did not even know what I wanted, so many things at once, incompatible. It would need to be someone who could hear what you had to say. It would need to be someone who could bear it, to sit on the stairs in the dark without complaint, to wait and then go and come back again and wait. That was love. All our past lives and psychic debris bumped up against the dock. The memory of a twice-lived fragment of time. And your eyes are a song that is lost and will never be sung. Goodness, even as I reread these bits of poems, I immediately think back to scenes in this book. And it makes the book blossom in my mind, in my imagination. And then it brings me back to the poetry and back again. And I oscillate from one to the other. And it's just a fantastic feeling. And it's really the first time, I'm trying to think, yes, I think it's honestly the first time that I've realized that you can, if you read prose and poetry in tandem, and I'm talking about a full novel and a full book of poetry, and if you have some serendipity, whatever you want to call it, and the sun comes out, as it does, you can really enjoy yourself. You can double, triple, quadruple your enjoyment and the depth of each work. So I hope that helped you in some way. Please let me know in the comments. Please don't be shy, because I'm desperate for some sort of community. I wish you all the best, and please remember, the only real property is the property of the mind. I'll see you next time.